Hi everybody. Thanks for checking out this week's video. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, I think, which I hope won't be, or will, I shouldn't hope, it will be something that's the norm on this channel now. And that's we're going to talk a little bit about the photography life, or a little bit of the experiences, and not just about gear and all that kind of stuff. Quite honestly, there's a ton of gear reviews on YouTube. And in fact, before the product even comes out, there's usually several people who have already reviewed it, classified it, give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, and quite frankly, I can't keep up with that. So the gear I get, I'll review, but for right now, we're not going to be looking for stuff from waiting for UPS packages to arrive from the manufacturer. If that ever happens, that's fantastic. I love doing gear reviews. As a rule, you guys like gear reviews, but this channel is going to be a little bit different than that. So today we're actually going to talk about something that somebody asked me the other day, and that's basically is what it's like to be a full-time photographer. Well, my knee-jerk answer is it's great, it's fantastic, it's it's freedom, it's being creative, it's all that stuff. But if I'm answering it completely honestly here, it's all those things, but it's also really hard, and quite a lot of anxiety that goes along with it here, at least for me, and a lot of people I know that do the same thing. And what I mean by that is, it's like running any other business for the most part, is that, I have clients out there now that haven't paid invoices, and some of them date back 4 or 5 months. The pandemic has complicated that, and every day you're sort of hustling to get different jobs. You're making sure with taxes, all these kind of day-to-day business type chores that has absolutely nothing to do with picking up a camera. Zero. I mean, you're worried about marketing. You got to make sure that you put Instagram posts up, and then you've got to, and you've heard all this before, and a lot of you can manage this, and some of you even do this, some of this stuff now, and you're not a full-time photographer. But it's not all glamorous, and that's okay. That's stating the obvious. But what I do want to talk about a little bit is sort of like a little bit of my path to this, and what went into the decision that I made to make myself, or try to be anyway, a full-time photographer that can actually pay my bills with taking pictures, along with other things. I was a sports columnist for a number of years, before I ever picked up a camera professionally anyway. And then in 2005, the newspaper that I was working at decided that they needed to lay off some staff. So they essentially cut a lot of their sports people, and they chopped it down basically from salary as the main criteria. So I walked in one day and ready to do my job, and I walked out not having one. And quite honestly, it didn't bother me that much. I thought I was ready to move to a larger market paper, and quite honestly, I thought I would have no trouble finding a job. I had done everything I was supposed to do. I won the awards I was supposed to do. I covered the things I was supposed to cover. I feel like I had sort of grown as much as I could at the paper I was at. Well, I went on a sort of like a hunt for a new gig in sports writing, or column writing, I guess you could say. I went to Florida, went to other places, interviewed, thought I did okay, and the phone did not ring at all. So the out of work for a week turned into a month, turned into several months, turned into a year, turned into 2 years eventually. And meanwhile, I was just trying to get any job I could in the meantime. And at this time, the recession was setting in, so there weren't many jobs at all. So we struggled. We really did. We lost a house, and we really had a hard time there. And back in 2009 or 10, I believe it was, I found an ad on the internet for a sports writer for a company called Patch, which some of you in the U.S. will be familiar with. Patch. They were a big company at one time that America Online had owned, and they set up a series of hyper-local, they called it hyper-local newspapers, online newspapers only, throughout the country. And their mission was to cover your city, every aspect of it from every angle. They had a writer as well as an editor for basically for every city that they had patch sites in. So this particular one was looking for sort of like a catch-all, a guy that could write winning sports and cover a group of patch sites in an area. And so I applied. I sent my resume, did everything, hoped for the best. About a week later, I got a call from, ended up being somebody that I actually knew through my previous job. Went in for an interview. Everything went fantastic. And he said, great, we'd like to offer you the job, but you have to shoot your own stuff. You have to shoot the games as well as cover it and write about it. Now, because I had been out of work for so long and I needed the job, I said, no problem. Now, in reality, I had never shot a photograph for money, never shot a sports photograph, and really had no idea where to even start or what to do. But I knew I did need the job. So there was about a 10-day lag between my first assignment and when I actually got hired. So in that 10 days, I realized I had no money to buy a camera, much less a camera capable of shooting sports professionally. So I went to QVC, of course, and got the only camera that they offered on a payment plan, which ended up being and that was a DSLR, which was a Pentax KR. Now, any of you familiar with the Pentax line, especially one from that side again, it is the entry-level digital SLR from Pentax. So I ordered it. I sold a few things, scraped together enough money to make the first payment on it, and hope for the best. So then I get my first assignment, which winds up being a girls' high school state championship tournament. The semifinals and the finals, which all took place at Michigan State University around here, which is about a 2-hour drive from my house, 2.5 hour drive. So I took this assignment and I knew I could handle the writing part of it. I wasn't worried about that. But it was a different experience shooting. Plus, I didn't have a lens, which could have been a problem. So what I basically did was I went on YouTube and I watched a guy named Jared Polin, or Fro Knows Photo. Some of you might know him. And I literally learned photography, at least the very basics of it, from Fro Knows Photo in about a 4-day Fro Knows Photo marathon of me sitting in front of my computer, taking in as much as I could. For example, I learned that I needed to get a pretty fast lens to shoot sports. I would have liked the 70 to 200-ish, but those were way too expensive for me. So the day of the event, I woke up, drove part of the way there, stopped at a camera store on the way to the place, took money that I was going to use for my house payment and bought a 28 to 75, I think it was, Tamron 2.8 lens on the way there, and got to the event. Had absolutely zero idea what to do. I mean, there was no video on the etiquette of sports shooting in a setting like that. But luckily, a woman photojournalist who worked for a big paper down here, worked for Gannett, she picked up on the fact that I was completely lost pretty quickly and sort of took me under her wing and showed me the ropes as much as I needed to know anyway, and even set me up with a little spot in the photographer's room where I could transfer my photos back, edit them, and transfer them back. And it was an enormous help to me. I mean, I can't imagine if she was not there, I would have been totally lost. So I shot the first series of games on a Thursday, came back on the Friday, and I 100% loved the experience, way more than I thought, to the point where I didn't even care if I wrote about the game. I just loved to shoot it. I loved it. It was challenging to me. It was technical enough, which kind of soothed the engineering part of my brain. Yet it was creative. I just loved it. And that led me to Saturday in the state finals, a team that I had shot on a Thursday. And the way Patch worked it was you sent in you took the photographs, you submitted the photographs into like a platform they used for submissions, and you were required to create a gallery that could be really as many images as you wanted of the event. So I sent in probably a couple dozen images from the games that I had covered on Thursday. So I got there Saturday morning, and I'm getting all set up in my little spot along the baseline. And by that time, I was feeling a little bit more comfortable that at least I could hold my own, or at least fake it. And a group of students from the school that had won on Thursday, that they were at the finals, came in, and they all had these red shirts on. And I looked real close at the shirts because there was something on it was like ironed onto the front of the shirt. And I'll be damned if it wasn't a photograph that I had taken on Thursday that had run in the gallery Thursday night. So they must have taken a screenshot from it and got it made onto transfers and then ironed it onto a t-shirt. It was the most surreal and craziest experience of my life, and perhaps, in fact, for sure, gave me the confidence that I needed to keep going, because it was nerve-wracking. I mean, I was totally guessing on shutter speeds, and I was totally guessing on, I really wasn't sure what app, completely sure how to manipulate aperture for depth of field and all that kind of stuff. And thankfully, those big arenas like that, Michigan State, are lit for photographers. So some of the challenges are not there that I would find later on, like in these dimly lit dungeons of high school gyms and stuff like that. But either way, I finished that assignment, and they were super pleased, and I started getting more and more and more and more and more. But the writing aspect of it faded. And I became basically the photographer for Patch in this area for a long time, until they closed, actually. And in the meantime, I had tried to upgrade some of my equipment, meaning I bought a 70-200 that was used, a Tamron. Not probably the top quality lens, but they quite honestly did a really good job for what I needed it for, and I would recommend it even today to people. They make great lenses, they really do. I love them, as a matter of fact. They're fantastic, and quite frankly, without their ability to make a good lens at an affordable price, I wouldn't be here. Not a chance. I mean, I couldn't afford the Pentax versions of 70-200 or the Nikon version or whatever. I couldn't even come close to it. But they make a great lens. Nonetheless, they closed down. I kind of meandered around a little bit more, tinkered with a little bit of portrait work, which didn't come very naturally to me, but I do enjoy it. I did as many weddings, which I love weddings, still love weddings actually. It's basically like a photo assignment for me from a newspaper. That's sort of how I approach it, like many people do now. Then I landed a job as a staff photographer at a local newspaper. Did that for a couple of years. Also wrote. That anyone interested or thinks they might want to do this as a career, I can't emphasize enough the importance of freelancing for your local newspaper, if at all possible. You learn so much so fast. You have to learn to think on your feet. You have to learn to adapt to any kind of lighting or weather, even in some cases. It's an invaluable experience, and I highly recommend it to anyone. So the newspaper ended up closing down, again, sort of a sign of the times. And I got a job with a wire service until recently. And some of you that watched other videos may have figured that out before, or I've mentioned that before. They required me to have certain equipment and certain everything, and I, I played along because I loved the job. It was shooting sports for a wire service, and that's my thing. Really enjoyed doing that, so I did all the stuff. Well, they let go of a bunch of people, or really kind of turned people into very low-paid freelancers, and I just didn't want to be part of that. So I left there, or got asked to leave along with several other people, and then I started my own gig, my official full-time photography company, and it was a very sobering experience. And it completely destroyed any idea I've had of it being a very glamorous lifestyle. It's not, honestly. And like many people that show you or own their own business, owning your own business is not as glamorous as you think it would be on television. It's just not. A lot of it is scraping by. I mean, I can't even tell you how many camera bodies or lenses I've had to sell over the years, not because I just wanted to upgrade or because I needed to, wanted to try the newest model of a Nikon or Fuji or whatever it is. I sold these things because I needed to pay my house payment, or I needed to pay my car payment, or because, and you're going to have stretches like that. It's I don't know anyone who has not at this point, regardless of what genre of photography you're in. Especially in the beginning, you're going to go through these things, but I do promise you this: it will get better as you get better. I look back at some of my early work and I think to myself, oof, I really sucked. And quite honestly, I did. And that's okay. You're going to learn as you go. And in many cases, it's going to be a trial by fire. You're going to have to figure it out on the fly. And to me, photography is as much about that ability as it is about knowing the aperture, the relationship between exposure and the exposure triangle. You have to learn to be flexible, and you have to learn to adapt, and you have to learn to figure things out really fast, or else this job you have now will be the last one that you have for this particular company. And for those of you thinking about seriously going into it, I know the pandemic, and myself included, has kind of got you reassessing things in terms of where you are in your life maybe, or what you want to do with your life. If you want to be a full-time photographer, do it. You will not regret it. I mean, I'm not advocating that you quit your day job, but reach out to newspapers, see if you can shoot for them for a while. Do these kind of things that might get you a little bit. You know, if you have a friend that's getting married, see if you could shoot their wedding. Do it for next to nothing, making it a financial decision for them. You know, take portraits of your own family if you have to and put it out there. See what you can do. And and then kind of stand back and say, yep, I like this enough, or I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep pressing forward. And quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with not being a full-time photographer either and enjoying photography more. People like me who make their living off of this don't love photography any more than any of you or anyone that doesn't do it full-time. And it doesn't do anything to your credibility either. I hate when people say, a full-time photography is the only way to become credible, or having a studio is the only way to be credible. Truth of the matter is it's got a bunch of crap. It's got nothing to do with it whatsoever. If you have a passion for photography and you love doing it, and that the thought of composing a photo and clicking the shutter really makes you crazy, then do it to whatever capacity you're comfortable with. Just go out and shoot photos as much as you can, as many as you can. I mean, we and I'm guilty of this too. We watch people on YouTube or other places. We follow their Instagram feeds and we think, oh my God, what a glamorous existence. This guy is at the Super Bowl. This guy is in Tahiti photographing Sports Illustrated models. This guy is in, and that is great. There are people that do that. There is a place for that. But the truth of the matter is that is not where you're going to start for sure. I promise you that. You're going to start shooting for your local paper, or you're going to start shooting your cousin's kids' family portraits, or you're going to start picking up a wedding that you're going to shoot for next to nothing of a friend or somebody else. That's where it's going to begin for you. And the truth of the matter is that's where it should begin. There's nothing wrong with learning as you go, no matter how old you are. I mean, I was in my 30s by the time I picked up a camera and did it professionally. And by I mean professionally, I use that term very loosely. I got paid for shooting it. I look back at that stuff now and I would never imagine even turning that stuff into an editor, much less making a gallery out of it on a web page. But you do that when you learn as you go and you get better as you go. So, have some compassion for yourself and for the learning curve it takes. And if you really want to be a professional photographer, then do it. Just throw caution to the wind a little bit and put your toes in and see what happens and find out if this is really for you. Because, I would have regretted more not doing it at all than I would have if it didn't work out. So anyhow, I hope that's so. I hope you guys like these kind of videos a little bit. There's going to be more of them because quite honestly, it's kind of a crazy ride at times. But if you like the video and what we're doing here, please click the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure that you're notified when a new video comes out. And also check out some other people's pages too. I can't recommend that enough. Sean Tucker is an amazing photographer, and more than that, he's kind of like a sage for photographers. A lot of the content he has is similar to this. It's more about, life than it is about actually setting up lighting for a portrait. He's wonderful. I always recommend Matt Day and Big Head Taco and guys like that that really take their photography seriously, but don't take themselves too seriously. So thank you guys once again. And I know this video maybe got a little bit long, but we'll work on that. All right. Thank you guys. See you guys next time.